This is Jennifer J. Hammond, and I'm so excited. We're going to bring you some more yays today. So, first of all, I have Victor. Welcome to the show, Victor.
Oh, thank you very much, Jennifer. Love your attitude.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited because I grew up in Key West, and we're going to talk about Cuba. You were born
Awesome.
in Cuba. And I mean, that was literally, we can see Havana's lights from the southernmost tip of Key West, Florida. And so I am so excited for you to talk about Cuba and then how you got here, the American dream.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Cuba on Santiago, the east side of Cuba. When I was 6 months, I was taken to Havana. My mother took me there. Cuba, it's it hits the heart. So I grew up poor, nothing. So if you ever see one of those videos of a kid in a third world country with shorts and ashy legs. That was me. So I was always with I can say my mother was a professor, and then she did her best to actually get me a pair of shoes, but I was always in shorts, a t-shirt, and a dirty pair of shoes, and ashy like chins. So so if you see a picture of Havana or the Bay, I grew up all around there. So some of the craziest thing, I jumped in the Bay. I jumped in the Bay with bad weather. So now I look at it and I'm like, my God, I was so crazy. But I had a lot of freedom when it comes to like being a kid. It's a little different than in the States. You have to worry about somebody taking you over there. It's a little different. You don't have freedom of like expression. But as a kid, you weren't worried about anything like that. And one of the things that you could just play in the streets and that was fine. If you got in trouble, you had that neighbor that you told your parents, so you better not get in trouble. So I kind of I started getting when I got older. So little bit of story of how I got here. My mother was a political prisoner. So this is what I mean by political prisoner. So she was part, because she was a professor, she was part of an organization run by this lady named Aida Valdez Santana. Um, Now that organization used to put out press about the repression in Cuba and all those things that were happening. So my mother had to go and read everything and make sure that everything in the press went great before that information got to the States, to the radio or to the TV, just to the news, because over there they just don't let you have any kind of freedom of expression. So once the government realized that, I was kicked out of school. So they came to my house and just
Wow.
it was just horrible.
Is
They
it
came to my
scary?
house.
I mean, as you, as a child, I would think it would be even more scary because you don't know what's going on, right?
Yes, I was still naive and a child, but you could see like people's looks or people would just treat you bad. And it was a situation of why. And I came to the States in 93. So there is no embassy in Cuba, no US embassy. So you have to go to the Swiss embassy to get your paperwork. So we had to do everything kind of on the down low and make sure that no one knows. If somebody knows that you're coming over here, they come to a situation of, you know, they just look at you bad. Uh, Now if things are a little different because there's an internet and more things are actually available for people to see. But back then it was a situation of wow. So once my mother got a visa. We actually came to the States. I didn't come in a boat. I have friends. My brother-in-law tried 5 times to come in a boat, and then he finally made it on the sixth time. I always tell him you should write a book.
Yeah.
That is just crazy.
Ooh,
But I do talk to my heroes all the time. I have a lot of friends that they just got on a raft and came. One of my best friends came, got on a raft and came. And I was 13. I'm pretty sure if I would have been a couple of years older, I would have had to come in a raft. But I was fortunate enough that my mother was able to get a visa, and then we got a plane from Havana, Cuba, all the way to Miami, and then we ended up in the state of New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
oh,
We lived
wow.
there for a couple of years, and then we moved back here to Tampa in '95. So It's it's scary because I see everything that happens over there. I've seen great things because of the people, but I've seen just horrible things. I've seen a policeman kick a pregnant woman on their stomach. So I've seen just repression. I've seen just things that I wouldn't wish on anybody. But that's communism, I guess. So I've been through poverty. I've been hungry. My mother makes this joke that in the morning they used to you go to the bakery and they give you a bread, and she used to just kind of like get one third of the bread and the rest give it to me so I could go. And she said after 2 hours, if you hit somebody with that bread in the head, they will break it because it would get so hard. But yeah, once I got here, we were able to actually get all our documents and everything and pretty much experience freedom. Um, I'm not per se political, but it's one of those situations where I can't be from one side or the other, whether I like it or not. It's mostly freedom. So whether you're one side or the other, they both hate communism. So it's not like you could say, hey, you could choose. Most Cubans that I know are Republican, but I know a lot of Cubans that are Democrats, and I have a lot of respect for both of them. I have a lot of Cuban friends that have big businesses and that I look up to, and I'm like, how did you get that done? And it's one of those things, whether it's lawyers, um, business owners, just great. She's great.
Yeah.
Um,
And so so let's get into some of you about you. So you definitely create yays in this world. You create happiness in a variety of different ways. One, you help businesses get funding. And this is something that most businesses don't even believe they can get funding, but that's critical
yes.
to a business being able to actually survive. So will you talk a little bit about your business funding?
Okay, so I used to work for Bank of America for over 18 years. So one of the things that I used to do there, I used to audit a lot of the files. So I used to see clients' files to where you
Oh,
have 790 credit score, $300,000 in an account, and somehow you go to Bank of America and they tell you, hey, you can't get funded. And it's not a good or bad thing on their end, it's their guidelines. So for the most part, if you have a business and you want to get business funding through your EIN, the reality of the matter is you have to have about $2 million showing on your tax returns. It's not just, oh my God, I made $2 million this year. You have to have that showing in your tax returns. And banks will lend you about 10% of your monthly revenue. So think about, okay, I want a $20,000 credit card. Guess what? You need to be making $200,000 monthly in order for you to actually get something like that. So I realized some of the things that I could do to help clients, and I started a funding company. The reason how I started a funding company was because I needed funding through one of my other companies. I'll tell you a little bit about the other company in a little bit. It's a great story that just happened within last week. Um, so with the funding company, I'm able to actually fund clients through through their business, a 0% credit card. So one of the great things about that is that if you have a good credit score and a business, a lot of the times banks are not asking you for the documents that you necessarily need to actually get a loan. So would you either get a loan through credit card stacking, which is you have a high-end credit card that you can use for the business. So, for example, I'm working on a deal right now with a gentleman that is looking to buy 20 AI vending machines. So that's going to cost him about $150,000. So in order for him to buy that, he has to get a loan from the bank. Now, if he does credit card stacking, he can get all the way up to $150,000 at 0% interest, buy um those machines. Now, each one of those machines, what we talked about, they produce anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a month. So think about each one of those producing $1,000 a month times 20, that's $20,000. So in 7 to 8 months, you pretty much with credit card stacking have the money that you actually invested. So that's the number one thing. So you'll have the money that you actually invested right away. Now, the great thing with credit card stacking is this. Once you have the money, it's continuous. So it's something that you could put in your business and do it on the yearly basis. So let's say you want to buy that business. You bought the business, you got everything together, everything is making money. You got the money back. Now you still have the 150,000. Now we do several strategies to where we actually get you together with all the banks. So when you go to the bank, a small business banker usually will not speak to someone. Not necessarily that they don't want to. They're super nice people. They attend you at the bank. They go and speak to you. But they have guidelines. So one of the guidelines that I'm aware of is you have to have seasoned funds of $100,000 in your bank account in order for a small business banker to take you on. So because they have clients that they have to cater to, not everybody can do that. So in this situation, you can realistically own a business and realistically have to pay nothing out of pocket, just through credit card stacking. Now you can get all the type of loans. So let's say you go to
Well,
an
before we go on to
MCA.
that, I know a lot of people would be afraid of credit card stacking. What happens if you miss a payment and, again, if they have the worst case scenarios, what do you do to make sure that people are never have any of the bad things happen? That like if something happens in their business and they don't make the money and then they can't make the payments, what happens?
So the great thing about credit card stacking is this. So you have to be responsible. You have to be a responsible adult. When
Yeah,
you have 0% interest, that can be done anywhere from 12 to 18 all the way to 24 months. The one thing about that is that you're only responsible for 1% of the payment. So think about you getting $100,000 and only on the monthly basis be responsible for $1,000. So let's say 150, 1,500. So if you buy 20 machines at $150,000, one of those machines can make your minimum payment.
should,
Now
yeah,
we give you a strategy to where you can do that throughout several banks, not just one. Instead of having, let's say you have $1 million, instead of having $1 million in one bank and doing one relationship, you can have several relationships. Now, when you go for credit, guess what? Everybody gives you credit. And if you do that continuously, you can still, once you get to the time limit, okay, it's 18 months. This is the 17th month because you have all the relationships. You can change those limits to other banks and still run your business. So anybody can do it. You can do it with the business. If it's harder now to get a new business to do it, but we have a strategy that can help you get funded through a business. So even whether it's new, whether it's old, you just have to have good credit and be a responsible adult.
yeah. I think it's really important, but I know that people, when they hear credit card stacking, it's something that doesn't always, people are afraid of it a lot of times. So you work with them to make sure that they, again, are going to have
Yes.
no problems, right?
Yes, we get you together with everything that you need to know. And then we put you on a plan to where this day you need to make this payment, or this day you need to look at everything you're doing. So it's a system that they actually have to follow. So I usually tell my clients, look, just look at your credit cards so you don't miss a payment or anything once a week. Just once a week, look at your credit card statement. Just take 10 minutes,
Yeah.
put it on your calendar, sign in, look at everything that's going on, and that's going to give you just peace of mind. And then you can continue to increase those limits. So those limits can be increased on this every 6 months. You can call the credit card company and say, "Hey, increase my limits." Um, so for example, American Express usually increases your limit automatically. So let's say you use your card. A lot of times they don't even call you, they just increase your limit. But other cards, you can actually speak to a banker or you can speak to someone in customer service and they'll increase your limit. So those are a lot of tricks that people can do to actually, instead of using their money, you're using the bank's money to become wealthy. And you can increase it, increase it, increase it.
Yeah.
So,
And then, then I say that a lot of time with mortgages on using, you leverage other people's money, OPM, other people's money, meaning the bank's money to buy real estate. And, so often you're putting, you put as little down as possible and then just continue to leverage it and build wealth. So, okay, I cut you off. You were going from credit cards into, and now what is the other way that you can fund businesses?
So if you do an MCA, just another example, MCA is a loan, small time loan that is usually used to pretty much kind of save your business. Those loans are high interest. So they give you a small type of terms. So let's say, hey, in 90 days or in 6 months, you need to pay the $90,000 that you borrowed, 25, 30% interest. So it's like, oh, wow, no. With credit card stacking, you take all of that away. And the good thing is that your credit improves. So as the bank sees you being responsible, your credit improves. You just become a better client, better client. And if you're doing that throughout, instead of doing it one bank, we put you together with the relationship with several banks. Now, guess what? Just out of nowhere, you became an amazing client and you could just go to the bank, have fun. And the other thing that doesn't happen is it doesn't show up in your personal credit. There is a personal guarantee because your personal credit needs to be good. But once you pull your personal credit, those cards and those things don't show up. They show up under your business side. So a lot of the times you have your personal credit intact, increasing because you're a responsible adult, and then your business credit is increasing at the same time. So if you're a dentist, if you have air conditioning company, plumbing, a lot of those companies can actually benefit a lot. Let's say you want to get a truck. You can use that, get a truck, make the money, make the minimum payment, get your money back, and do it again. So it's continuous. You always have the money available. You always have the money available. So that's the great thing about credit card stacking.
Well, and I was going to say one of the things that I think is really important is to just know that it's possible. And one of the other
Yes, it
principles that
is.
you're talking about that I think is so important is, making a relationship with multiple financial institutions. And I'll share a quick story on how I learned the hard way not to keep your money in one bank. And that was ironically, and stories are stories, and whether they like it or not, it was Bank of America. And I had money in there, and I had been renovating, and this was years and years ago, well over, gosh, this must be 25 plus years ago. And I had renovated a property, and then I put all the money into my bank account. And I had gone, it was Thanksgiving weekend. And then I came back from Thanksgiving weekend, and I went to the ATM. And of course, back then I was so silly. I was just getting out $100, and I just wanted some cash in my pocket. And there was nothing, zero, no money. And it says your account is overdrawn. And I was like, no, I just flipped a property and just put in a huge chunk of money. And my heart went to my stomach, and I knew the vice president of Bank of America in Washington, D.C. I knew all these people, and I went and I talked and talked and talked. And I was amazed by their going, yeah,
Yeah,
there's really
that's
nothing
the
we can
one.
do. It was fraud. And and this is way years ago, like when
Yeah.
nobody really talked about fraud. And they're like, yeah, we
Yeah.
lost, and even though they're insured, they were like, yeah, I don't know, we'll do an investigation. And I was like, no, I don't even
Yeah.
have, like, how am I going to pay for food? Like, what do you mean? How am I going to pay my
Yeah.
mortgage payment? Like, how am I going to do anything right now? And again, just it was the most, it took me, I fought and fought and used every leverage I had. It took me almost 9 months. It was like 8.5 months before they finally then all of a sudden all the money just showed up back in my account. And they're like, yeah, it was insured. So we just put it all back. And I was like, do you know what I've been through? Like beg, borrowing, and
It's
steal from all my friends in the meantime, just to try to make things go right. Anyway, my point just being, everybody learns their lesson a different way. But for me, I will never, ever, ever have a relationship with one financial institution, and definitely never with Bank of America.
your situation kind of hits the heart because I seen it. So I seen it for years and years and years. So if you have any kind of fraud with them, you have to just get your lawyer involved right away. It's unfortunate, but there's certain guidelines that you have to follow, and they know the guidelines more than you. So
Yep.
if for any reason they're not gonna lose money. They're just gonna send us a document, send us an affidavit, send us these documents signed. Sometimes they lose it, sometimes they don't have it, unless you're super persistent, and it'll take you 9 months. It'll easily take you 9 months. It's
Oh, it's
it's
awful. It was just so awful. And I tell that story because I think that so often, we think that that relationship, and even like when I was a kid, there was a relationship where you looked eyeball to eyeball to a banker and they could do all sorts of things. You were saying earlier about regulations with the bank and things of that nature. And it just, oh my gosh. Anyway, I think it's so important to realize that you should never have just one relationship with the financial institutions, whether they're credit unions, banks, whatever you choose. And again, I don't want to run out of time because I really want you to tell this story about your other business. It's so important, in what most people's lives, that at some point you might have to use a legal processor, somebody who's going to serve legal documents to somebody.
yes.
And recently you had something where you helped out a family, and I wanted you to share that story before we run out of time.
So, my wife owns a process serving company. So, how we got to that business is through a friend of ours that has the same type of business. And he just realized, hey, look, you guys have helped me out a lot. This is something that you can really do. My wife just loves it. The back end of it is just amazing. So, on Wednesday or last week, I received a call from a gentleman that had just gone out of court in another state, and we're in Florida, and he was trying to serve the mother of his child. So it's 7:45 p.m. and he was just frantic, and I'm on the phone. I'm like, "How can we help you?" He's like, "I need to serve this person. This is my situation." So the situation was that the mother of his child, he went to get food, she left with the baby, and then it's been months. So he's been trying through the court system to, pretty much
Get a child
get
back.
a hold of them. Yes. But the person had an attorney, they had to file a case and all those things done. So we went and my wife was like, you need to do this. I'm like, she's like, you need to do this. I don't care. I love you a lot, but I will never keep you from your kids. It doesn't matter whether you're with me or not. The one thing I will never do is keep you from your kids. So you need to do this. So we rushed to St. Petersburg and actually found out, my wife knocked on the door of the lady, and then she's to deliver the documents to serve them. So I guess it was almost 10 o'clock, and they were like, no, 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 no. So I told the gentleman, look, let's do this. First thing in the morning, I'll show up. So at 6:30 in the morning, I was there just to scope the place out, trying to see if I could get the person served. So the next thing you know, um, I spoke to I knocked on the door and the person came out. I provided them the documents and they were served. I spoke to the gentleman on the phone and he was like, I just got off the phone with an attorney. And one of the things that I know a lot of attorneys. I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, I need an attorney in Florida. It's like, hold on. I have a good network to where I have a person in the network that does family law. So I just called them right away. I was like, hey, look, get this person on the line. The lady was busy at that time, but her assistant felt the urgency on my voice that she was like, you know what? Stay on hold. She talked to her and she got off the phone and I told them the guy is on the phone right now. Let me put you in touch with them. So now this is Easter, a few days before Easter. So she was able to retain him as a client. And after all of that was done, the gentleman was able to see his daughter. So he saw his daughter for a couple of days before Easter. On Saturday, he saw his daughter. So it's one of those things. And if you see the baby on him, they're like twins. So it's like, oh my goodness, you guys look alike. So
You're
that was,
reconnecting families. I mean, I think that, again, people don't really think about how important it is to be able to serve documents when you need to serve them, and to just, follow that, but to also have somebody who will go above and beyond. And
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time, but I want people to know, I know you have the two different businesses we talked about. If you'll make sure, will you share website, social media, anything, or how to get a hold of you?
So in order to get a hold of me so that I could help you fund your business, you can go to Instagram, Monier, as in Vic Monier. And you're gonna see there, probably a picture of me. You're gonna see there a picture of my family. You're gonna see there some information about how to get funded. You can always call my phone. So you can call the business number. You can also get in touch with us through the Nexus Legal Services. So if you Google that, you'll see Nexus Legal Services, and that has my personal number, which is 813-728-5217. I know I'm going to get a lot of calls, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people. And then you can always call our office. So you can send a message in Instagram. It's Next U Holding, NEX, the letter U, Holdings, HOLDINS. If you Google that, or if you YouTube that, there's several videos that I just started to put out. Through our company, you can get in touch with us, and we fill out a small application, and we're able to help you. So VICMONIER, and then we can help you get funded, even if you don't have, even if you have a brand new business. There's tricks that we can use to actually get. Remember, I worked for Bank of America for over 18 years. So I have not only relationships with Bank of America, I got great relationship at Chase, 3 and then I have a network of people that really, really good with helping our clients get funded. So that's one of the things that we can do. And if you need legal advice, I could always get you to a lawyer. But if you need documents served, nexuslegalservices.com or nexuslservices.com.
Perfect. Well, and as you know, I always want to end the my podcast with a yay. So I'm going to ask you to lift your voice and say yay with me as we go off the air, okay?
Yeah!
Yeah!
I love it. That's one thing that I really love about you. Great, great,
We
great.
have to spread more yays in the world, and that's one of the ways we
Yes,
do it. Thank you
that
so
is
much.
100% needed. 100%. Thank you very much for having me, Jennifer. You're amazing.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for sharing all your stories and your wisdom.
Awesome. If I can help anybody, just get in touch with me. NexusLegalServices.com or NexusLServices.com, or you can always VICMONIER, and you're gonna see a picture of a bald guy with glasses probably once you pull it up. Victor Monier.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Victor.